Hello, this is John Burke. I'm creating a series called John's Talks. In the first series, I discussed international monetary system, but simply provided a definition of one. Then, at the end of that episode, I mentioned that I would provide a illustration of an international monetary system, and that would be the international gold standard. So I have a couple of preliminary remarks. One is the empirical data that we have from the 19th century, which is generally the period of the international gold standard up until 1914 or the outbreak of the First World War, is extremely thin. So we simply do not have enough empirical data to recreate an accurate picture of the international gold standard. Second, there's no single monolithic gold standard that was in existence during the 19th century. It took various forms and various policies were adopted by each country. Notwithstanding the fact that they did adopt, of course, what you might call the rules of the game. So I created to support this short lecture, I created a PowerPoint which I'll integrate into the video. The first thing I did was I identify the sources from which I based this lecture, so you can read those if you want. Okay, so why do we have this international monetary system at all? Because there's no central world bank to issue a single currency to be used in international transactions. So this leads to the fact that by necessity we must have a system of national currencies to do this job, and that's basically the reason or the rationale for an international monetary system. So the international gold standard, the best evidence shows that it was in operation between 1881 to 1914. The principal countries, let's say, were the G10, but were also other countries as well. And the dominant country within this international gold standard was the United Kingdom. So under an international gold standard, it's a monetary system whereby each country agrees to fix their currencies to gold, usually in a ratio that has been fixed by law. So this leads, when all of this is done, when each country has stated its official par value of its currency in terms of gold, we have fixed exchange rates for international trade, and we also have, in theory, the law of one price, because essentially, no matter what currency you're using, the base currency is gold. One of the principal features of the international gold system is the benefit that it can correct trade imbalances. This is partially true, but the general presentation of the way it does this is completely false. So we will see a couple of illustrations. We have international trade. We have a country with a current account surplus and a current account deficit. So under these conditions, in this idealized but false version of the international gold standard, is that the country that is running a surplus in the current account will receive an inflow of gold from the country that's running a current account deficit. This consequently will lead to a correction in both countries, in the country running the deficit and in the country running the surplus. This is called the price specie flow mechanism. So what's supposed to happen? The country in surplus will receive this influx of gold. The influx of gold means that it will have a greater supply of money. The greater supply of money should lead to inflation, should lead to higher prices, should lead to higher interest rates. So the country should begin a period of economic contraction that will correct this trade imbalance. The exact opposite happens in the country that's running a deficit. The outflow of gold will lead to deflation. It will lead to more competitive prices in the export market. It will lead to lower interest rates, capital inflow, because capital is seeking a higher rate of return, and achieve this correction in the balance of payments. But this is a completely oversimplified model of how the international gold standard work, and particularly the monetary policy with respect to the gold standard. It wasn't automatic, as you read in so many textbooks. So what's the problem with this price specie model? It ignores capital mobility. It focuses too much on the current account. Minor differences in interest rates will trigger prompt capital flows, and capital mobility was completely unrestricted under the gold standard. And capital flows alone would obviate the need for movements of gold between a deficit country and a surplus country. Okay, so what are the rules of the game? And these are unwritten, and I'm getting this from Ronald McKinnon. He's a scholar in the area. All right, so first, countries have to fix the official gold price and agree to convert the domestic currency into gold on demand. No restrictions on the export of gold, and no exchange restrictions on the current or capital account. The national currencies have to be backed by gold reserves. In addition, to have this long-run growth, we have to have adequate gold reserves to support this growth and to support the quantity of money in the system. If a country, for whatever reason, runs into a short-run liquidity crisis, let's say due to a gold drain, then the central bank can intervene, and they did intervene. And this is absolutely made clear and proven by the work of Arthur Bloomfield, who's one of the sources I cite. So even though we don't have monetary policy, discretionary monetary policy as we have now, we did have an active monetary policy to restore the official parity and to attract foreign capital to correct economic problems within a particular economy. All right, now what about, let's go to performance. Let's take this period. How did it perform? Well, we can go to the work of Michael Bordo, and it worked really well. So what Bordo did is he limited his sample to G10 countries, and again on the available empirical data. And he ran a comparison of different international monetary systems. We'll see the interwar period, the Bretton Woods system, and the post-Bretton Woods system. And he ran that against 9 macroeconomic variables. And if we look at his work and we look at this international gold standard period, it's characterized by low inflation, the lowest of all systems. Real per capita economic growth, exchange rate stability, and stable rates for both short-term and long-term interest. So I'm going to leave. I'll conclude on that today. Except just before closing, I'm going to make one more statement. What happened to it? Well, it collapsed due to the outbreak of World War I. Because of World War I, countries that were on the international gold system, they completely abandoned it because they had to print money and they had to borrow to fund the war effort. In addition, they undertook a lot of protectionist measures that would inhibit international trade. All right, see you next time.